You know what nobody tells you about getting older? Your face doesn't just change. The way makeup sits on it completely transforms. And if you keep doing your makeup the same way you did at 30, you're actually making yourself look older. I learned this the hard way after years of wondering why my foundation suddenly looked cakey, why my eyeshadow seemed to vanish, why everything just felt off. But here's the beautiful truth I discovered. There's a whole science to makeup application that works with mature skin instead of against it. And when you understand these techniques, you don't just look better. You look lifted, like you've had work done. Except it's all optical illusion, strategic placement, and working with how light hits your face now. I'm Ruth, and today I'm sharing the facelift makeup techniques that actually work for women over 50, not the stuff you see in magazines where they airbrush everything anyway. Real, practical methods that take into account what's actually happening with our skin, our bone structure, our coloring as we age. These are the tips I wish someone had told me 20 years ago. Let's start with the foundation of everything. And I mean that literally. Foundation. Because this is where most of us go wrong right out of the gate. Here's what happens to our skin as we age that changes everything about foundation application. Our sebum production drops dramatically. We're talking about 60% less oil by the time we hit 65. This was actually measured in proper scientific studies. What this means is that powder-based products, which need oil to blend properly, suddenly start sitting on top of our skin instead of melting into it. They cling to dry patches we didn't even know we had. They settle into lines that weren't visible before we applied makeup. The solution? Cream-based everything. And I mean everything. Cream foundation, cream blush, cream highlighter, even cream eyeshadow. Cosmetic chemists have tested this extensively. Cream formulas blend 40% better on mature skin. Not a little better, 40%. But here's the technique part that matters even more than the product. How you apply foundation changes everything. Most of us were taught to apply foundation in downward strokes, following the direction of our facial hair. Makes sense, right? Except it's exactly wrong for creating lift. Dominique Saxey. She's a makeup artist who specializes in mature beauty, developed what she calls the lifter technique. Every stroke goes up. You're applying foundation in upward motions, always, from your jawline up toward your cheekbones, from your cheeks up toward your temples, from your nose up toward your forehead. She worked with dermatologists to prove this actually creates an optical lift effect because you're working against gravity rather than emphasizing its pull. And you use less foundation than you think you need. This is critical. Mature skin has texture that's just reality. More foundation doesn't cover the texture, it highlights it. You want sheer to medium coverage applied in thin layers. One pump of foundation for your entire face. That's it. If you need more coverage in specific areas, you add it strategically with concealer, which we'll get to. Now let's talk about the architecture of lift, because this is where the magic really happens. Celebrity makeup artist Bobbi Brown spent years figuring out what actually creates the illusion of a lifted face. She worked with women like Martha Stewart and Diane Sawyer, women who are stunning and age-appropriate but definitely showing their years, and she discovered the critical line is temple to cheekbone, that diagonal. Everything you do with highlight, with blush, with contour, it should emphasize that upward diagonal line. Here's how this works in practice. Take your highlighter, and again, cream formula, not powder. You're going to place it at your temple, right where your hairline meets your forehead. Then you're going to sweep it diagonally down to the top of your cheekbone. Not the apple of your cheek where you put blush when you were 20, the top of the cheekbone, the part that's closest to your eye. This creates a light path that the eye follows upward. It's pure optical illusion, but it works. When light hits those highlighted areas, your face literally looks lifted. The eye perceives upward movement. And here's what you do not do. You do not put highlighter where you have any sagging or crepey texture. No highlighter on your eyelids if they're hooded. No highlighter on your jawline if you have jowling. Light emphasizes everything it touches. You only put light where you want to draw attention. Now, contour. This is controversial because a lot of beauty experts say women over 50 shouldn't contour at all. I disagree, but with a massive caveat. You have to do reverse contour. Traditional contour is about creating shadows where shadows don't naturally exist. Sucking in your cheeks and putting brown powder in the hollow to make your face look thinner. That technique looks ridiculous on mature faces because we already have shadows from volume loss. If you add more shadow on top of natural shadow, you just look dirty. Reverse contour is different. This technique was developed by Lisa Eldridge, working with actresses like Helen Mirren and Judi Dench. Instead of adding shadow, you're adding light where shadows have developed. So if you have a natural shadow under your cheekbone from volume loss, you're going to put a light concealer or highlighter in that shadow area to fill it optically. If you have shadow in your nasolabial folds, those lines from nose to mouth that deepen with age, you're putting light concealer right in the deepest part of that fold. Not on either side of it, right in it. This optically fills the depression. Same with marionette lines, those lines from the corners of your mouth down toward your jaw. Light goes in the line, not around it. This is completely counterintuitive because we've been taught that light brings things forward and you want to bring lines forward. But when you're dealing with actual depressions and shadows from volume loss, filling them with light makes them recede. The dermatologists at Mount Sinai Hospital actually studied this and found it creates a perceived 5 to 7 year age reduction. Just from strategic concealer placement. Let's talk about eyes because this is where I see the most mistakes. If your eyelids are hooded, and most of us develop some hooding after 50, traditional eyeshadow placement doesn't work. You put shadow in your crease and it completely disappears when your eyes are open. You're basically doing eye makeup that nobody sees. The solution is to bring everything up and out. Your eyeshadow goes ABOVE where you think your crease is. When your eyes are open, you should be able to see the shadow. This usually means placing color almost up to your brow bone. It feels wrong when you're applying it, but when you open your eyes, it creates the illusion of lift. And here's the key. You always extend your eyeshadow outward past the outer corner of your eye. Always. That upward and outward motion is what creates lift. If your eyeshadow stops at the corner of your eye, it creates a downward pull visually. Dark colors go on the outer third of your lid only, swept upward toward the temple, never in the inner corner. Light colors go on the inner 2/3 and under the brow bone. This creates dimension without adding shadow to already shadowed areas. Eyeliner is tricky. Thick eyeliner on the upper lid makes hooded eyes look more hooded, but a thin line right at the lash line, slightly thicker as it moves outward, creates definition without weight. And you wing it out, never down. Even if your natural eye shape angles down at the outer corner, your eyeliner goes up. You're fighting against the natural pull. Lower lash line gets nothing dark. This is critical. No dark eyeliner, no dark shadow on the lower lash line. It drags everything down. If you want definition on the lower lashes, you use a soft brown or taupe smudged into the outer third only. Inner 2/3 gets a light champagne or cream shade to brighten and open. Under eye concealer is its own science. Research from Mount Sinai showed that putting concealer under the eye where we have dark circles actually emphasizes hollowing if we've lost volume there. Instead, you want to put concealer on the actual bone under your eye, not in the hollow. You're highlighting the bone structure, creating the illusion that the hollow isn't there. And you use a shade that matches your skin exactly, not lighter. We were all taught to use concealer 2 shades lighter than our foundation, but that creates a highlighted hollow on mature faces. Match your skin tone, maybe even go slightly warmer than your skin tone to counteract the blue or purple of dark circles, but never lighter. Eyebrows are non-negotiable for the facelift effect, but not the way you might think. Thick, dark, heavily filled brows look harsh on mature faces, but sparse, barely there brows eliminate the frame of your face and make everything sag visually. You need the Goldilocks version. Defined, but soft. Here's the technique. Use a pencil that matches your hair color exactly. Or, if your hair is gray, use a soft taupe. You're not drawing solid lines. You're making tiny, hair-like strokes in the sparse areas only. Where you already have hair, you're just brushing it up and setting it with a tinted gel. The shape matters more than the fullness. Your arch should be slightly higher than feels natural. Not Instagram arch, not dragging everything up arch, but a subtle lift. This arch should hit at the outer third of your iris, not above the outer corner of your eye, like younger brow shaping suggests. And the tail of your brow. This is critical. Extends slightly beyond the outer corner of your eye and points toward your temple, never down, never stopping at the corner of your eye. That slight extension, up and out, creates architectural lift for your entire face. Now we're getting to blush, and this is where the science gets really interesting. A study in the International Journal of Dermatology found that warm-toned blushes in specific placement actually reduce the appearance of jowls. Not by covering them, by creating visual lift through color, temperature, contrast. Here's what this means practically. Cool-toned blushes, your pinks and mauves. Emphasize shadows, because shadows read as cool-toned. Warm blushes, your peaches and warm corals. Create contrast against those cool shadows and create perceived lift. And placement is everything. You want blush on the apple of your cheek, not the cheekbone. When you smile, that little ball that forms, that's where blush goes. Then you blend it upward toward your temple in that diagonal line we talked about earlier. Never blend it down toward your mouth, always up toward your hairline. The color should be sheer and buildable. One of the biggest mistakes is too much blush trying to bring life back to your face. But heavy blush reads as costume makeup on mature skin. You want a soft flush that looks like it's coming from within your skin, not sitting on top of it. Cream blush, applied with fingers and tapped into the skin, gives you this effect. Powder blush sits on top and can emphasize texture. The warmth of your fingers actually helps the cream product meld with your skin. Lips are the final piece of the facelift puzzle, and they're more important than you might think. As we age, our lips lose volume and definition. The vermilion border, that's the line where your lip color meets your skin, becomes less distinct. Without that definition, your whole face looks less structured. But here's what you don't do. You don't overline your lips with a dark liner to create fake fullness. This looks obvious and dated on mature faces. Instead, you're going to use a liner that matches your natural lip color exactly. You're tracing your actual lip line to restore that definition that's faded. This reestablishes the architecture of your mouth. Then you're filling in the entire lip with that liner before you apply lipstick. This creates a base that keeps your lipstick from bleeding into the fine lines around your mouth. And if you're over 50, you have those lines even if they're subtle. Lipstick color matters for the overall lift effect. Dark colors make lips recede and can emphasize thinning. Very light colors can wash you out. You want something in the middle. Warm roses, soft berries, peachy nudes, colors with some depth but in warm tones that complement the warm blush you're wearing. And here's a trick that makes a massive difference. Take a tiny amount of your cream highlighter and tap it at the center of your top lip only. Not your whole lip, just the center of the top lip. This creates the illusion of fullness without obvious overlining. The light catches that spot and makes your lip look fuller and more three-dimensional. One more thing about lips. Matte formulas are not your friend. They emphasize every line and make lips look thinner. You want satin or cream finishes that have some luminosity, not full gloss if you have significant lines that can bleed, but something with subtle shine that makes your lips look hydrated and full. Let's talk about the overall finish because this ties everything together. Matte makeup looks flat and aging on mature skin, but too much shimmer or glow emphasizes texture. You need that in between, what makeup artists call a lit from within finish. This comes from using cream products that have subtle luminosity but not obvious shimmer. Your skin should look like healthy skin, not like you've applied products that sit on top of it. When someone looks at you, they should see your face, not your makeup. Setting powder is necessary but has to be applied strategically. If you powder your entire face, you'll look cakey and dry. Instead, you're only powdering the areas that get oily or where you need longevity. For most women over 50, that's just the T-zone. Forehead, nose, chin, the rest of your face stays dewy from the cream products. Use a fluffy brush with the tiniest amount of translucent powder. Tap off the excess. Press it gently into those areas rather than brushing it on. This sets your makeup without disturbing it or adding texture. Setting spray is actually more useful than powder for mature skin. A hydrating setting spray spritzed over your finished makeup helps everything meld together and creates that cohesive, skin-like finish. Plus, it adds a subtle glow that looks like healthy skin rather than makeup. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Makeup can't stop aging, and we shouldn't want it to. The goal here isn't to look 30 when you're 60. The goal is to look like the most radiant, polished, lifted version of yourself at your actual age. These techniques work with your face, not against it. They enhance your features using optical illusion and strategic placement rather than trying to paint on a different face. When you apply these methods correctly, people notice you look great. They might think you've lost weight, or you're well rested, or you've done something different, but they can't pinpoint what. That's the sign of successful, mature makeup. It's invisible but effective. Here's what I want you to remember from everything we've covered. Cream formulas over powder. Upward application, always. Light where you want to lift. Strategic concealer placement in shadows rather than around them. Eyeshadow above the crease. Warm toned blush on the apple, blended toward the temple. Defined but soft brows. Lip liner for architecture. And everything works together to create that diagonal line from temple to cheekbone that gives you the optical lift. Start with one technique. Maybe it's just the foundation application, brushing upward instead of down. Add one change at a time until you've built a routine that works for your specific face. Because that's the other truth. These are guidelines, not rules. Your face is unique. What works perfectly for someone else might need adjustment for you. Take photos, not to post anywhere, just for yourself. Take a photo with your usual makeup, then with one change implemented, then another. You'll see the difference objectively in a way you can't in the mirror. And remember, the women who look stunning as they age aren't necessarily the ones who've had work done or who have perfect skin. They're the ones who've learned to work with what they have. They understand color, placement, and the optical illusions that create lift and light. You can be that woman. You already have everything you need. It's just about learning to see your face with fresh eyes and apply techniques that honor where you are now, not where you were 20 years ago.